dear parishioners, parents and people of goodwill, it's hard to believe that we have reached the ANZAC Day weekend and the third Sunday of Easter in the Church's year. I think for most of us, we want peace and happiness personally, and we want peace and happiness for our country. Yet, life for us has its times of gloom. Just think of that shocking and unnecessary accident of the death of those 4 police officers. The loss of jobs through the coronavirus. The difficulty for some people with loans for repayment of mortgages or rental, and even for some marriage breakup. And in particular, much gloom pervades the horizon with an unjust aggressor affecting the peace and happiness on a worldwide scale at times. For instance, China needs to put its head in regards to potential world conflict within the next few years. Whereas back in the past century, Stalin brought great gloom to his Russian people with this incredible number of labour camps, while that madman Hitler, on a far wider scale, brought greater gloom to millions of many nations. Consequently, as I talk to you on this ANZAC Day, 25th of April, one of my favourite days, I think that we can be very proud of our country Australia because it's made a special difference in adding its defence forces and capabilities to those of bigger nations like America in bringing peace and freedom to millions of people, such as the case in the First and Second World Wars. Therefore, as a former 2 years Australian conscripted national serviceman to the Australian Army from 1968 to 1970, I salute with pride my nation, Australia, and always feel incredibly proud of our nation's defence forces. Lest we forget is always something I very proudly say on this ANZAC Day. When we were forced to fight the German forces in the deserts of Africa, and when we were forced to fight the Japanese in the jungles of New Guinea, there was no certainty of victory at all. Thus it was natural that gloom pervaded the air. However, gloom does not need to end in doom, and we somehow rose out of the ashes a greater people, a greater nation, thankfully. Likewise, after the death of Jesus, we sense in this third Sunday of Easter with the readings that there was an elephant in the room. There was a deep fog descending on the horizon as Jesus meets these 2 men on the road to Emmaus, as I now remind you in the Gospel of this weekend. That very day, the first day of the week, 2 of Jesus' disciples were going to a village 7 miles from Jerusalem called Emmaus, and they were conversing about all things that had occurred. And it happened that while they were conversing and debating, Jesus himself drew near and walked with them, but their eyes were prevented from recognizing him. He asked them, "What are you discussing as you walk along?" They stopped, looking downcast. One of them, named Cleopas, said to him in reply, "Are you the only visitor in Jerusalem who does not know the things that have taken place there in the last few days?" And he replied to them, "What sort of things?" They said to him, "Things that happened to Jesus, the Nazarene, who was a prophet, mighty in deed and word before God and all the people, how our chief priests and rulers both handed him out over to a sentence of death and crucified him." You will notice that some of the first words in this Gospel are the words, "They stopped, looking downcast." And then they tried to answer the question of the resurrected Christ about sorts of things that have been happening. What's been happening? They stopped, looking downcast. In other words, they were depressed, disconsolate. Their hopes of Jesus being the Saviour had been dashed by seeing him die on the cross, as hundreds had seen him die on that cross. And as I said before to you, gloom does not need to end in doom. That's where Jesus, the stranger, often comes into our lives at the most unexpected moments. He stepped in the lives of these downcast men on the road to Emmaus after this crucifixion, was able to explain a fact the Holy Scriptures had foretold that the promised Messiah would have to suffer before he entered his glory. Furthermore, they finally recognised him in the breaking of the bread, in other words, the Eucharist. Likewise with us, even amidst gloom, Jesus can appear through the help of teachers to pupils, because those teachers have been open to Jesus in their hearts and minds. Or Jesus comes from parents through to children, or even vice versa. Children can bring Jesus to their parents. God works in mysterious ways at times. In many ways, people can connect and engage with each other in meaningful ways. Jesus can be present in so many other ways, such as the reading of the Holy Scriptures, the Bible, especially in the New Testament, or Jesus is present to us in prayer, in our daily conversations with him, whether they be big or small. And most of all, Jesus is present in the breaking of the bread, and all Catholics and Orthodox Christians should understand that one. Then, through these experiences, the gloom can be put aside, the grey skies can go into the far horizons, and we can see then greater light, and we can have greater hope, and we can believe again, and we can love again. Indeed, in the past, the love of country, the love of democratic freedom, the love of fellow human beings was the motivation behind Australians being involved in some of our most major conflicts. According with that in mind, I would like us to stand for 1 minute as I play for you the last post. Over and out again from Father Greg, lest we forget.